Hi, everybody, from Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota, Florida, the new spring home of the Cincinnati Reds, and welcome to our Spring Training Reds Report. Spring training all but over now as the Reds and the Padres get set to tee it up for real Tuesday afternoon down on the riverfront. Jack McKeon in his first full season as the skipper of the Cincinnati Reds. Let's start things off with this next half hour by hearing from the veteran manager talking about his very young baseball team.
We spent a lot of time in spring training working on fundamentals, and you hope that the guys can just retain all that stuff and not make the mistakes during the season, because we're a type of ball club that has to keep our mistakes to a minimum.
Mistakes are something Dave Burba hasn't made many of this spring. The right-hander from Springfield has had a great spring training. He is the ace of the Reds staff this season.
Just because, you know, I'm quote ace of the staff or the #1 guy, I don't really, that doesn't come into a factor with me. I go out and do my job the best I can, and if I can lead in any way, I hope it's by example. You know, I want guys to see that I work hard and I take pride in how I pitch.
Dave Burba also has to be one of the unluckiest pitchers in Major League Baseball. He's made a career of going to the mound on days when his team doesn't score a lot of runs.
'96, I was 0-8, and, you know, I started to have some negative thoughts. You know, I started thinking, well, is it me? Am I not any good, or do I belong here? And, you know, when you get off to 0-8 starts, how can you not think that? But I kept a positive attitude and turned things around in the second half.
Burba has been in mid-season form down here in Florida this spring, and he's anxious to experience his first opening day start.
Growing up a big Reds fan and living in Ohio my whole life, well, practically my whole life, you know, just, you know, Reds this, Reds that, and here I'm going to be the opening day starter. It's a big honor for me. I'll be nervous, naturally, but, you know, I'm not going to approach it any different. I can't go out there and say it's opening day, I got to do this, I got to do that. What I have to do is go out and give the team a quality start and give us a chance to win.
While Burba is the ace of the staff, the Reds are also excited about two young guys that move into the starting rotation full-time this season. Mike Remlinger and Brett Tomko have already proven they have the talent to frustrate hitters in the National League.
Yeah, you know, I'm having a lot of doubters come to me and say, you know, it was kind of a lucky season, and, you know, that stuff, it kind of drives you a little bit more to go out there and prove to everybody that it wasn't a fluke and that you deserve to be up there and can throw at that level.
Brett has been battling tendonitis in that powerful right arm this spring, but he hopes to be ready when the gun goes off.
I want to be a top quality pitcher for years to come, so it's not that I really have to prove it. I'm going to go out and do it because, I mean, that's my job. I want to be known as one of the best pitchers in baseball. I mean, that's the attitude you have to have.
Like a lot of the other young guys on this team, Tomko isn't making the big money yet.
You can go look at it either way. We got a lot of young guys that are trying to prove themselves at this level, so, I mean, it's driving them a little bit more.
When you're looking for a spot on a Major League roster, you can't be picky. Lefty Mike Remlinger was a bullpen workhorse for the Reds last season, sometimes in middle relief, sometimes a closer. And before you knew it, he was in the starting rotation.
They asked me, what would you rather do, be a reliever or starter? And I'd rather be a starter given the choice of being a middleman like I was last year. But those couple times I had a chance to close out some games last year was just a lot of fun and a lot of adrenaline. And whereas starting, I think, is more, you have to continually do it inning after inning throughout a whole game, and it's more consistency, and you have to stay. You can't let the adrenaline pump you up too much.
Remlinger led the Reds in strikeouts last season. He fanned 9 hitters in 3 different games, but he also led the National League in wild pitches. In 1998, consistency is the key for number 43.
I threw some wild pitches with my fastball, but I think a lot of them probably on curveballs, because when I'm throwing the ball well, I'm getting ahead and throw that curveball down out of the zone, and I throw it so hard that a lot of times it's going to be in the dirt, and it's breaking late, so I'll get some swings at it. And it's, you know, it's a hard job for a catcher when I'm out there sometimes, you know. If I'm doing my job and the team's playing well, everyone's going to have good numbers at the end of the year.
When the call goes down to the bullpen, the answer is very obvious for this team. Jeff Shaw was the National League's top reliever last season. The Reds take a lead late into the ball game. You have to like their chances.
Just getting quality starts out of Burbs and Rem and Tomko and, you know, Hutton and Weathers or Harnish or whoever's in there, the last 2 guys. Getting that ball game into the late innings to get to Sullivan, Belinda, and myself, it will help, you know, ease the load for us, because the deeper they they can go, the better off we're going to be.
Now, don't touch that remote. We are just getting started. Coming up next, a milestone for Marty and Joe. We'll have that and more when our spring training Reds report continues from Sarasota. Bradenton, Florida, the home of baseball's biggest bargain basement team. The Pittsburgh Pirates spent $10 million last season and almost won the Central Division title. Now, the Reds are going to spend twice that much money, but they know still being in the hunt come September is going to be a tough thing to do.
I'm not going to sit here and predict we're going to win the pennant or something like that, but I think we're going to surprise a lot of people and play a lot better than people think.
It's going to be very hard in our division and to win it, but you just never know. If we got young guys, if we're able to develop quick, into something, a couple of years from now, they think they're going to be, and they could do it all within 1 year. We may do some things in this division.
Well, Joe Nuxall, Marty Brenneman back in Bradenton, Florida, and the Reds will be hitting off of a new arm on the mound for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
It all started 25 years ago here at McKechnie Field in Bradenton, Florida. A guy named Brenneman, a guy named Nuxall got together to broadcast a Reds game for the first time. In 25 years, a lot of players have come and gone, but Marty and Joe are still on the radio.
If someone had told me in February of '74 that I'd be around 25 years later in the same job, wow, I would have never believed it.
I would have to guess in the 25 years, I doubt if we had two disagreements, and neither one of them were worth a hill of beans.
Marty and Joe have seen a lot in the last 24 years. Pete Rose's 44-game hit streak, hit number 4192, Tom Browning's perfect game, and 3 trips to the World Series. Each time, the Reds brought home the title.
After playing baseball for 22 years and never experiencing playing in a World Series, and then to be a small part of that 75 year.
I caught your act. The late, great Joe Nuxall.
But it's not all baseball on the Reds radio network. They've talked about Joe's golf game and Marty's tomato plants, and they've even built a shrine to Elvis.
We don't take ourselves seriously, and we don't take the game seriously. I mean, we want this team to win because it makes our job easier. It's always better to say nice things about people than it is to be critical. But at the same time, we both understand that whether they win or lose is not the end of the world. There are more important things in life.
All the new surroundings for the Reds down here in Sarasota this spring, and there was something else new when the Reds reported to training camp. Brett Boone with a new batting stance.
I'd never gone through a season like I went through last year, where from start to finish I really couldn't get anything going for more than 1 or 2 days at a time. That had never happened to me before.
Frustrations boiled over for Brett Boone this past offseason after struggling to his worst year since joining the Reds. Boone took the radical approach of changing his stance at the plate. No more of that bat swinging way back behind his shoulders.
It's feeling good. I'm not worried about how many hits I get right now, or I'm just worried about getting to the point so on opening day I've got something that's really comfortable, and I'm getting close to that. It feels almost, now when I walk up there, it almost feels natural, like I'd never hit the other way before. So I see positive things, and I'm looking forward to a real good year.
Brett need not be so worried about himself as he should about all the new faces around him.
I think we're a very young team, but a very talented young team. A lot of talent in the young guys, just no experience. But there's a few guys that have been out there for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years that have the experience. So there's a good mix.
Reggie Sanders moves from right field to center field this season, giving the Reds a solid veteran defensive effort up the middle. Reggie's missed more than 150 games in the last 2 seasons. Injuries have plagued his career, but just like every other spring the last several years, Reggie comes to camp looking for a fresh start.
Yeah, I tell you, it's just one of those things, you just go out there and you get into the groove and just trying to do the fundamental things to get yourself prepared for the season. And that's just one of the things that I try to do, to get myself prepared.
With Barry Larkin out of the lineup, Reggie knows his role is to step up and show the young guys how it's done.
It's just one of those situations where, I just got to be a leader on and off the field. Barry's out for, 3 to 6 weeks. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but I'm going to take on that task and just do it to the best of my ability.
Sanders says leadership starts at the top, and he likes the laid-back style of Jack McKeon.
He's a guy that just reminds you of like a godfather figure, and, he knows how to motivate the team. He knows how to talk to you respectfully, and so, he's just an all-around good guy that, you enjoy playing for.
You want the inside scoop on this Reds team? We've got it for you coming up next on our Spring Training Reds Report. We'll sit down and talk with veteran Reds beat writer Hal McCoy of the Dayton Daily News. He'll give us his insights on the summer of '98. Training Report. It's time now to get the inside scoop from Dayton Daily News Reds beat writer Hal McCoy. And how you've been down here all spring. And I guess when you talk about this Reds baseball team, you talk youth right away, and you talk youth all the way.
Well, you talk youth in a manner of speaking, but you also talk a lot of veterans on the pitching staff. When I first came down here, I thought, you know, this team's going to finish 6th place, be the only team in baseball to finish 6th because it's the only 6-team division because of the pitching. But Jim Bowden went out and got a lot of veterans who have been around with other teams, and so far this spring that they've done a pretty good job. So it's going to be a mixture of youth and veterans.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that surprised a lot of people. The pitching was supposed to be the problem, but so far it's been the hitting that hadn't been doing much.
Right, it's just the opposite. They haven't been scoring runs. They haven't been driving in runs. The pitching has been very good. So if the pitching holds up, now you don't know in spring training, the pitchers usually jump out ahead of the hitters. So, but if these pitchers hold up the way they have this spring, they could surprise a lot of people.
Let's start at the top. Jack McKeon is a father figure, grandfather figure, whatever you want to call it. Completely different approach than Ray Knight was a year ago.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell that in this camp. Everything is really loose. Jack turns them loose. Ray liked to have his fingers in everything. Ray liked to run the show and pretty much push the coaches aside. Jack's just the opposite. Jack likes to delegate authority. He runs a very loose camp. He lets the players do pretty much what they want to do to a certain point. I know that a lot of the players have told me that if they made a mistake last year, they would get chewed out, and then they'd be afraid to try anything. Jack encourages them to try things. He says, spring training, you make mistakes, great. That's where you learn things. So things are definitely a lot different.
One of the interesting positions on this baseball team is Reggie Sanders. Reggie's been one of those great potential guys for a long time. Injuries have kept him down. Now he's going to move over to center field. He says he's ready to take over a leadership role in this team.
Well, I know Reggie said that before, and you know you'd like to see that happen because, of course, Barry Larkin is this team's leader, but he's going to be missing for a couple of weeks. If Reggie reminds me of Eric Davis. You know, Eric took a lot of raps about being hurt all the time, and he was hurt a lot. And Reggie's built along the same lines. There's not a lot of meat on that body. There's meat, but it's solid, and so he's susceptible to injuries. If he can put it together, the last 2 years he's only played half the games, both years. If you put those two halves together, he had a great season. And if he can do that, if he can play 150, 160 games, he's going to strike out a lot. That's always going to happen because he's a free swinger. But, you know, he could have another big year like he did 3 years ago.
Willie Green had a monster year last year for this team, and he came to camp, I guess, ready to prove that wasn't going to be a fluke.
Well, I don't know that you could call it a monster year. It was a big year for the Reds. You know, he had 26 home runs and drove in 91 runs to lead the Reds. I've noticed this spring that he's come in with a better attitude. He's smiling. He's not so quiet and reserved as he has been before. If he can do what he did last year, of course, that's going to be a big help. I've noticed improvement on his defense. He's worked hard on that. He never much cared about playing defense, and Jack has talked him into being a complete ball player, and he's taking extra work on defense. So to me, that shows an improved attitude from Willie Green.
Okay, you told us when you came down here it was a 6th place team, you thought. Where is it now after you've seen them in spring training?
Well, I don't see them beating out either St. Louis or Houston, but I don't see any reason why they can't finish 3rd place and beat out Milwaukee, Chicago, and Pittsburgh if they get the hitting going, of course. But I think they're as good as those other 4 teams. It'll be a little tough to beat out the Cardinals.
Okay, Hal, thank you very much. Folks, you can read Hal McCoy every day in the Dayton Daily News. He'll be with the team every day of the season, so make sure you find out what's going on with the Cincinnati Reds with Hal McCoy. Still ahead, Pokey has some big shoes to fill again at shortstop. The Spring Training Reds Report rolls on from Sarasota. Captain still recovering from neck surgery here in spring training. He should be ready to play by the middle of April sometime, but the Reds know they have a very good insurance policy in Pokey Reese.
That's good for me, but you know, at the same time, I feel sorry for Barry. Getting hurt again, but yeah, it gives me a chance to play and show what I can do.
Defense has never been a problem for Pokey. He just needs to get more consistent at the plate.
I think I have improved a whole lot on my hitting over the past couple of years. I mean, last year I just died out at the end because I hadn't played that much in a long time. But this year I work hard in the weight room, and hopefully it'll help me down the stretch. It's tough, man, to maintain over a 162 game season, and that's why you just got to continue to come out hard, come out and work out in the cage, off the tee, or whenever, and all that kind of stuff helps you. It could be the littlest of things that just messing up your swing, but sometimes it can be something big. But that's why you just have to come out and you work with Mr. Griffey and Dennis Minke, and they see things you don't see sometimes, and they'll let you know, and those things help you.
For the first time in quite a while, Hal Morris won't be playing first base for the Reds this season, but the new guy has a familiar name. Eduardo Perez takes over his dad's old job.
I'm just coming out here and playing. The reports and stuff say they named me the first baseman and all that, but be honest with you, I'm not taking anything for granted. We got a lot of talent in a lot of positions, and with Dimitri here and Roberto, there's a lot of competition, and that's the fun part about this whole game.
Perez hit 16 home runs and drove in 52 runners last season. Still a ways to go to catch his dad, but Tony's influence is obvious, and Eduardo was very quick when I asked him what was the best advice his dad ever gave him.
Enjoy the game, the love for the game. Wake up in the morning and how they say, smell the fresh brewed coffee and stuff. Being out in the ballpark, it's like, smelling the grass and realizing that you're doing something that a lot of people would love to be doing.
Last year was Eduardo's first full season in the big leagues. Now he wants to prove that he can play up here every day.
Being realistic and stuff, we're going to have to do all the little things right in order to compete, and we know that.
This time a year ago, Reds fans had never even heard of a guy named Chris Steins. The scrappy little outfielder, though, certainly made a name for himself in the last half of last season. Acquired in a trade from Kansas City, the Reds gave him a chance to play, and then they couldn't get Chris out of the starting lineup.
Last year was a crazy year, starting off in Omaha, Nebraska, and then going to Indianapolis, and finally ended up in Cincinnati and getting a chance to play every day. So this spring training's been it's been very fun and very relaxed, and I've really been enjoying myself.
Steins really enjoyed his first look at National League pitching last season. He went 7 for 7 in his first 2 big league games.
A lot of it had to do with there are a lot more fastballs in the National League, and pitchers not knowing me as much as they know some of the other guys. So it works to your advantage and disadvantage. I think this year will be a little different. They'll know me a little more. I'll know them a little more. So I think it'll be a little bit more of a challenge.
Like so many guys on this team, Chris still has plenty to prove, mainly that last year's success was not a fluke.
Baseball's sort of like golf in the sense where mechanics and things change so much, and pitchers pitch you so different throughout the course of the year. You constantly have to change, and you constantly have to make adjustments to try to get better, and it's just a constant battle.
It was one of the weird stories of the 1997 baseball season. Pete Harnisch was the Mets' opening day starting pitcher. Then he decided to give up smokeless tobacco. He developed insomnia and a severe case of depression, didn't pitch much the rest of the way. Harnisch trying to jumpstart his career with the Reds this season.
I guess people feel I have to prove myself. I don't know why. That's the way it goes. My arm's fine. It's been fine for 3 years. I had surgery 3 years ago in '95, but that's, behind me. I don't even consider that anymore. And, if people think I got to reprove myself, then that's the way you can look at it. I go in this season with the same goals I have every year, so I don't worry about it.
Harnisch got hammered a week ago. The Red Sox lit him up for 3 home runs, but the veteran says he learned a long time ago that spring training games don't mean a whole lot.
I think it can sometimes be a hindrance. Some people say it's getting onto a positive. Everyone's pitching great and everything, but you see the guys who are throwing, have no ERA or have a 1-something ERA through spring. They don't always get off to the best starts, so sometimes you get maybe a false sense of what you're doing.
The games do get some meaning in less than 2 weeks now, and Harnisch says he's still got what it takes to get big league hitters out, but he'd sure like to get off to a fast start.
You'd like to get off to a good start, and eventually you have a couple bad games, and we can help that, but it's pretty important for a confidence booster, because that's when it counts.
That's going to do it for our Spring Training Reds report. The bottom line on Jack McKeon's very young baseball team, they will definitely have to be overachievers to be contenders in the Central Division this year. Opening day comes Tuesday afternoon. The Reds and the Padres down on the riverfront. You can see it live right here at 2 o'clock on the Reds television.